welcome to episode 18 of the Just Run podcast with me, Rhys Morgan.
And me, Nathan Marshall.
Last week we had sheep rescuing, Rice Krispie Square loving ultra runner Jacob Lambert. Tune in to listen to his episode that dropped last Friday. It was great to hear all about his adventures, and both Nathan and I are really excited to see what he's going to be doing next. On this episode, we've got Grant Grego, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that right or wrong. I do apologise. He's an ultra runner and respected coach. Grant isn't short of experience when it comes to running, and throughout this episode, you'll hear all about his previous accomplishments, such as completing a double Ironman in Snowdon and multiple 250-kilometre ultras, to name a few. We're super excited to chat with Grant about his current and future challenges. Tune in to hear all about his journey and his ability to stand firm and persevere through times of suffering. So let's dive into it. Grant, welcome, mate.
Thank you for having me.
No, mate, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. So because I don't know, are you in London? You speaking from London?
Yes, yeah.
London. Nice. Fair enough, mate.
Born and bred.
Born and bred.
Big smoke.
Yeah.
The big smoke, man. It must be tough running around London, actually. Is it like, are you central, or have you got like any nice trail runs near you up there?
The closest I have to me is Epping Forest. Otherwise it's canals, and it's extremely flat, which is very annoying. So I have to drive. If I want to get some hills in, I have to drive to Box Hill in Surrey, or sometimes I find myself going to Wales if I want a little adventure.
When you see a bit of sense, come over to,
God's
country,
yeah.
as some people say.
Yeah, Wales has a funny way of absolutely breaking me, though, every time I go there.
Yeah, it does that to you. It's not short of a few hills, that's for sure, man. That's for sure. But
no, but I find myself, I keep going back.
Well, mate, knowing your character, and we're going to be getting into it in this episode, I completely understand that. I mean, I've only ever met you once, obviously, at the Big Moose event, and
yeah,
I know you through Why We Run and through Nathan and everything, and it was a pleasure to meet you at that awesome event, and I hope that we'll have a lot more chances to meet up and run together in the future. But I mean, for those people who don't know, obviously, I know you've done this before on a few other podcasts, but I hope you don't mind me asking and talking about it, but just looking at posts on your Instagram and things like that, it looked like you used to live a very different lifestyle. And so for those who are listening, just wondering if you can talk about kind of the path you're on now, how you got to it, and a bit about yourself, mate, if that's all right.
Yeah, I'll try not to ramble on too much. But I used to be, a few years ago, I used to be pretty overweight, always pick the easy route, and just got comfortable, I guess, in a comfy life. Didn't really push the boundaries in anything. If everything got a little bit too hard, I'd sort of retreat back into myself. But I found that it wasn't leading anywhere. Like, the weeks tick by, the months tick by, the years tick by, and you're only going in one direction, which is bad. And I guess I have a distinct memory of struggling to tie my shoelaces, where I couldn't bring my leg up to my chest, and I'd get out of breath. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I actually cannot live like this. And that was pretty much where it started.
How big were you, Grant?
I was 104 kilos, so about 16 stone.
I was going to say, I don't do kilos. I have no idea what that was. So I'm glad you clarified. So you were about 16 stone. And yeah, that must have been one hell of an eye opener, like not, tying your laces and struggling to do that. I mean, that's definitely, and that's, so at that point when you thought, I can't do this. I can't keep doing this. What did you do then? Like, what was the changing factor? Did you decide, fuck, I'm going to hit the gym? Or was it putting the running trainers on and running? Or what was it that you did first to kind of take that first step, so to speak?
It was going to the gym. But it was hard for me because when you spend so much time sort of self-conscious. You don't want to go out. You don't want to see anyone. You're worrying about what people are thinking of you. It's really hard to take that step. And even then, I found myself going backwards. So I would persevere for a few weeks. I'd have a little hiccup and I would go back into myself, back into my sofa, back into the takeaways, and basically undo all the work that I'd done.
Mm.
And then I don't know, it was just perseverance. And it wasn't easy at all. But one thing I really found that was a huge help was going to classes, was meeting people, having conversations, listening to other people's stories. And I feed off of other people's successes and their energy. So when they've told me that they've run a half marathon at the weekend, I'm like, oh, what's a half marathon? And they're absolutely beaming and they're really happy and full of life. It was like, oh, I'd like to feel a bit of that. So go home. Oh, there's a London Landmarks first ever half marathon. So it was a few months away and I managed to persuade my old man to do it with me. So we trained and it was hard to not run, lose some weight, but then that compounding effect it has on the body of someone of that size. But then as you persevered with it and found great joy in it, I finished the half marathon and was just sheer elation. But then you start talking to people that run half marathons and they're like, oh yeah, like I've run marathon, or they're doing some other crazy challenge and you want to feel what they're feeling. So it's just opening your eyes to a world of possibilities and just curious. And I find that curiosity has got me to where I am today. Just feeling what other people have felt and what they've gone through and putting myself in that position. And just how do I feel? How did I feel doing that half marathon or that marathon?
Kind of need to eradicate the saying curiosity killed the cat, don't we? Need to get rid of that shit. It should be curiosity killed my fucking legs after a 5-day ultra. Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like, that's a good way of putting it, mate. That is, a lot of people have been on here and said it in different ways. But yeah, being curious. I mean, I think that's what has led me and Nathan and a lot of the people on here and that we, all three of us know, is just seeing something and going, well, that sounds like a bit of me, bit stupid, bit of me. Let's give it a go. Because I think there's too many people who, I saw a saying the other day, and I can't remember what it was, but it was something to do with not even trying it is worse than failure. Because at least if you failed, at least you've given yourself that chance to go out and do that thing. Whereas you can be defeated at, point A, where you read it and go, I'm never going to do that. And that's it. It never happens. And you never know what if. And it's such an interesting way to think about it, isn't it? Really
yeah,
is.
I'd like to. You have nothing what is it? You have nothing to fear, but everything to gain. So by going out and putting yourself out there, and it doesn't have to be running, it can be anything. And this has helped me correlate running into everyday life where I've been petrified and overcoming that hurdle with having a mindset of I can't, like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. To I can do that. I can do this. And applying yourself mentally and physically into it. And funny enough, the closest to quitting has never been from running. For me, it was freediving. I had never felt so claustrophobic and in my own head of, I can't do this. Like, no, this isn't for me. I'm not doing it. So then taking a moment to just breathe and sit in them emotions and get to grips with yourself and flipping it. Like, you can do hard shit. You've just come from a 7-month training block for a double Ironman into a 250k ultra marathon along the Welsh coastal path. This is nothing. This is just holding your breath and swimming.
Yeah.
Do you ever
Well,
think you're going to die when you're diving, though?
It's a big, I mean, freediving is extremely dangerous, but so's everything. Nowadays, everything's dangerous. Everything's going to kill you. Everything's giving you cancer. You walk. Everyone's driving too fast. There's maniacs on the road. So, one thing I've always said is, like, if I'm going to die, I would rather die my way.
Yeah.
So if I'm going on a skydiving holiday and my mum's having a panic attack, as she always does, it's like, look, if anything really bad happens, like, just know I died with a smile on my face. Because I would rather die doing that than someone take it away from me.
Yeah. What's the scariest thing? I'm going to go back to actually the intro in a second, but is that the scariest thing you ever did? Because I was going to bring freediving up because I have been having a nosy through your Instagram. I mean, you've done some mental shit. You really have. You've done the skydiving, the free driving, the cycling, the running, everything you've done, the climbing various summits. If you had to say the scariest thing, what would that be?
For me personally, it would be the freediving because I'm petrified of drowning. It's one of my biggest fears. Just like the sea, I'm petrified of it. So it was, okay, I'm going to go do my scuba diving license. I'm scared of heights. Okay, I'm going to apply myself and go do a skydiving license and stick with it. And now, I mean, I've got 170 solo jump skydiving, over 100 scuba dives, free diving qualified. Couldn't ride a motorbike. So it was, okay, I'm going to go do a motorbike license. And it's just overcoming these hurdles and these disciplines that we feel as though we put these imaginary boundaries on them. But they're only boundaries that we're applying to ourselves. And now it's just do everything, explore everywhere, and do as much as you humanly can.
Yeah.
Before you're old. And I want to be able to look back on my life and just be so proud of what I've done.
When did you audition for James Bond?
No.
And where'd you stop?
Where'd you stop? It's interesting. For me, there isn't an end goal. So with the running, as it's being in the best possible shape I could be for any given occasion. So if a friend wants to ring me up and, I've got a 50k run planned, I haven't got to now go do a 12-week training block to go do a 50k. I'll see you Saturday. I'll be there. And that takes years of graft. Like, we don't just wake up one day and we can go run 50k. That's being disciplined for months and months and months, and that's showing up for yourself even on the days you don't want to. And I take great pride in that. And with stopping, why stop? Who says you have to?
Yeah, that's always something I always say is the saying, you don't stop training because you get old. You get old because you stop training. That's something I've heard, and I love the saying because it's true. You see all these people who, even like people who retire and stuff. It's interesting. It's quite sad to see people who work in quite physical jobs when they're working full time, and then they get to retirement age and they decide to just stop and take a break in everything, and then their health deteriorates so quickly. And it doesn't mean that you've got to stop everything. Just because you're old doesn't mean you've got to stop going to the gym and everything. You can still do it. And yeah, it's all about, living as long a life as you can, isn't it? And then when your time is up, you can look back and, like you said, say, had a bloody good innings. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Let's face it. So,
yeah. And we never know when. You never know when something bad can happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
And opportunity has come from running, for me personally, from signing up to races I never thought I was capable of, has brought opportunity. And meeting Lewis at Ultra X Wales brought opportunity to the first Why We Run. And what the first Why We Run broke me it shattered me into a million pieces. I hobbled on poles and used them as walking sticks to get me through to the finish line. I couldn't run for 5 months. I had to defer GB Ultras to this year. But opportunity in the chaos was Lewis sending me the application form for the double Ironman. And it was, okay, I can't run. I can't swim. So I need to learn how to swim in a pool. I can sort of ride a bike. I've got 7 months. We've got something to work with.
Yeah.
And that is only, I think it was a blessing, because I wasn't ready for GB Ultras last year. My running career had only been a year old. The body wasn't conditioned to it. The legs wasn't conditioned to that kind of magnitude. And by prolonging it a year, it's put me in the best possible position that I could have hoped for.
Yeah. Going back just to the start there, just obviously you asked about yourself and the path that you chose, and that you were overweight and struggling and things. How did that impact your mental health as well back then, and coming forward now to where you are now? Like, what can you talk about the differences?
I think mental health is always huge. It's always been a huge part of my life growing up, and it follows me everywhere. It follows me everywhere. And back then, it wasn't, because your appearance and your self-worth is so low, other people see that. And I feel that you attract people that are like-minded, or where you're at in your life correlates to where they're at in their life. And I was meeting a lot of people on the same sort of trajectory that I was on. And it was only a downward trend. And I struggled daily. I took 6 months off work, couldn't face getting out of bed, delved into Destiny on the PlayStation, Call of Duty, and it was my escapism from life that I didn't have to deal with. It was like, okay, work's giving me this opportunity to take time off, but I didn't use the opportunity to get better. I got worse. And then when I had to go back to work, I'd put on even more weight. So people in the route, in this depot, in this lifestyle, it's easy to ridicule when they're all moaning and they see someone who's suffering. But it's never a helping hand. How are you? How are you feeling? Do you need any help? It's, oh, look at this prat. Didn't you go to the gym while you was off sick? Could have done something about it. And this doesn't have a positive impact on you as a person. It makes you feel worse about yourself. So after I had been back for a few weeks, I was then able to take another 6 months off work. And I did. I took another 6 months off work. I delved straight back into the PlayStation, into my pit, my misery, and there was nothing I could do about it. My life changed when I went self-employed and I left that environment, because we can essentially be the product of our environment. If our environment's shit and our daily lives are shit, as soon as you change your environment, it opens your eyes to what's out there. I hadn't traveled, I hadn't done anything. I was go to work, come home, go to bed, get up, play a bit of PlayStation, go to work. And that was all I knew. That was all I understood. And as soon as I left and I went self-employed, my first year of going self-employed, I took 102 days off and I went and traveled. And I went and got my skydiving license. I went to China and I met all these amazing people. And it was, wow, my life doesn't have to be like this. And I was working sort of alone amongst a small team. I hadn't quite sort of grasped the gym. I was still very much living off of my childhood achievements. Back in the day, I ran a mile for the school and I won. Back in the day, I was a Taekwondo black belt champion. Back in the day, I was in the Air Cadets. Back in the day, and I lived off of that. Because I had achieved nothing in the next 10 years of my life. And it was, that needs to change. And I need to start having achievements that I'm proud of now as a person and chasing it. The only downside to that is sometimes the challenges can be ill-fulfilled. So you complete it and it's, okay, what's next? What's next? Rather than sitting in that achievement and digressing, it's very easy to get carried away. And now it's, you still have days where you wake up and it's, I cannot be bothered today. Like, I do not want to do this shit. But get up and do that shit and you feel better. You will feel better personally because you've shown up for yourself. And that's all it is. It's just showing up for yourself day by day by day. Don't worry about a year. Don't worry about the next month. Just show up for yourself today. And what can you do for yourself today? And that's how I approach it. And I know that I'll feel better. And I made a promise to myself when I got injured while we run, and I couldn't run for 5 months. I made a promise I would never moan about running again because I wanted to run so badly. I'd give anything to go run. And you couldn't. And we can get really short-sighted where, oh, right, I'm back to running, and we forget what we've come from. And I always, today, if I've got a run planned, I'm just, yes, I get to go run today. And then I'm annoyed if I have a rest day. It's like, but I want to go run.
It's interesting.
How is your running going this year, Grant? Because obviously you've got 400-mile races.
I am struggling with the in-between. And I always knew that this was going to be an issue because I rely heavily on challenges, goals, and in a weird sense, like I like digging myself a hole. I like digging and digging and digging into a pit that, can I get through this?
What's the time difference between each race?
They're all 6 to 7 weeks apart.
So literally you're recovering and tapering and then the odd
and then
week
you're
of
going
running,
again. Yeah, so the weekend just gone was probably my longest run, which was 13 miles. And the following week I had a 4-hour hike. And that was go find a hill and walk up and down it for 4 hours. And that's essentially all I've done. Okay, I say it's all I've done, but I've had some hour runs here and there. My longest run's been 2 hours. But we get desensitized, especially as ultra runners, when you're talking big distances. It's only a half marathon. It's only a marathon. It's only 50K. And I love volume. It keeps me occupied. It keeps me busy. So when you've been told you can't run for 10 days minimum, and then the most you're going to go run is half hour twice a week, then an hour the following week, you start climbing the walls. It's, I need to scratch this itch. I need to get back into it. And I think it's hard because I finished Chester so well, because I finished it feeling great. It was like, I want more. I want to capitalize on this feeling, but it's not the case. It doesn't work like that. No one recovers 100% in 6 weeks, and I'm not really going to know how I feel till mile 40, 50 into Scotland. I could finish Scotland battered and then grateful that I've got 7 weeks till the next ultra.
Yeah. So you did Chester. What, your next one is Scotland, is it? And then
Scotland's on the 8th of June. Then I got Brecon Beacons on the 27th of July. And then I got Snowdon on the 6th or the 8th of September.
Oof, they're brutal places as well, and what's the elevation like across the whole thing?
So the Scotland's 5,000, Beacons weigh 6.5, Snowdon's 6.
Nice, tasty. Yeah.
I actually thought it would have been more than that.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed.
But
But
see, you're becoming desensitized, exactly what you just said. You just listed
desensitized,
4
yeah.
unbelievable runs. Like you're running 400 miles in however many months it is over some of the most iconic, difficult routes. And you both just went, oh, I thought it'd be more now. I was disappointed. Fuck, what?
No, it's because
Yeah.
think of the Pegasus Slam and the elevation in some of those. And they're like
Yeah,
only
but
30 miles. It's quite surprising that.
it's kind of surprising if you don't know. Like I know how, obviously just from running around them, how big they are, and you do think in your head it's going to be more. But then I suppose still you've got to think where you've come from and what you're doing, and try not to become too desensitized with it, because I
So
can guarantee you when you're 60 miles into it or something and you hit the hill like that, you'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm glad there's not more.
100%. And I'm a big believer of ignorance is bliss. Don't worry about it. And this paid me in great stead at Ultra X Wales. So day 4 was our big day. It was 60 plus K and 6,000 meters. And I remember sitting at the briefing in the morning and everyone was panicking. And I was very new to ultra running at this point. This is my first multi-stage. I'd done the Jurassic Coast 100K a few months prior. But even then, I didn't really think about elevation. And in the morning of this briefing, everyone's talking about this elevation. And I was like, I don't really know what you're on about. And to be frank, I don't really care. Like, what does it matter? What does it matter, this elevation that you're overthinking and overcomplicating? You've got to go up it. You've got to go up it anyway. So what does it matter? Just face it when you've got that hill in front of you and combat it then. Don't try and combat it at 4:30 in the morning at breakfast. It doesn't matter. Yeah. You'll face that at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the morning.
Because when you start getting into that negative,
once you start getting into
it that much, it's going to just hinder the entire race. And then when you get to that point, you're going to be like, oh no, it's here. Oh shit. And I can guarantee that, it's all mental, but physically that will affect you. Healthy mind, healthy body, all that stuff. You'll start thinking, oh, I got a niggle in my leg coming, or is it because of this hill? And just like you said, it's very difficult for some people to do. And I've done it in races where I've overthought things. And I think it's a natural process. And part of the process of running, whatever distance it is you do, is not overthinking it. It's difficult. Like when you look at like the real like multi-stage events and you look at these big Cocodona and Dragon's Back and all these big runs, some people, like a friend of mine who's done it, I mean, he had a folder. He literally said he was admin. He had down to the point, like he knew where he was going to be running, what the elevation was, the turns he'd be making and where not to miss and stuff. So I suppose at that point, it's hard not to overthink it because you've got to do it right. But equally, don't worry about a 1,000 meter, whatever it is, or hill you got to run up, when you get to the bottom of it, look up and power through. Just get through. If you walk, crawl, just get to the top.
Yeah, and believe in your capabilities.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because
Like self-belief goes a long way.
it does. Well, actually, that something I wanted to ask you. So, looking back at the deeply positive impact that the Why We Run documentary had on. So, if anybody hasn't listened to that, Nathan we'll drop the link in you. I mean, it was incredible. Like, I don't want to talk about it too much because it pissed me off that I wasn't there, and I'm fed up with everyone. It is just I wish I was there so much. And every single guest we have on, I'm jealous. All right, I'm just going to say it. I'm jealous. And you talk about when you're being interviewed in the one about you will not ask for help. Now, have you come close to asking for help yet? And can you explain for anybody who hasn't seen the documentary what do you mean by that?
So I haven't come close to asking for help yet. It's, I guess it's, for me, from a selfish point of view, I guess, and through growing up, through the past and life, it's relying on yourself to get you through it. So yes, okay, I've got a crew here, but ultimately, no one's going to go run them 100 miles for you.
No.
You've got to go and do it. And how big a hole are you going to dig yourself? How deep are you going to dig before you need to put a hand out and say, I need you to help me get through this race? Like, I cannot do this by myself. Maybe from a physical point of view or a mental. And I'm not there yet. And that's not to say that I'm not trying. The whole idea of GB Ultra's Grand Slam it was never about the first 100 miler. It was this compounding effect over months. And what is that going to have on the body?
Yeah.
And how bad is it going to get at Beacons Way or Snowdon, where I'm going to be relying on a pacer to get me through this race because I'm mentally, physically broken? And I'm curious about it. What is it going to take? And not from I'm not going to go train for this and I'm going to go break myself, because you're not doing any favors for yourself. Like, I'm going to train, I'm going to prepare, but you still have that deep rooted question. Have I got what it takes?
Yeah.
And this is why I applied for the tunnel in March next year.
Yeah.
Which is, it's stupid. It's mind-boggling why someone would want to sign up to something like that. But it's running at its purest form.
Yeah.
There's no glorious mountains to look at to take your mind off the pain. There's no beauty. And you're faced with a choice. Every mile, you're faced with a choice. You have the light at the end of the tunnel. You have your chair. And you have everyone nice and warm, tucked up. And I have to make that choice to turn around and go back into that dark, dingy piece of shit tunnel that has violin music playing on repeat. And I haven't got to do this 50 times. I have to do this 200 times.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not allowed support crew. I'm not allowed poles. I'm not allowed headphones. It is essentially you v you.
Yeah.
And like, it makes me it makes me tingle with excitement just thinking about it. I bricked it. I shit my pants when I got the email saying, so you have to apply for it. You have to send off a running CV and why you feel as though you should be allowed to do this race. You have to have a prerequisite of 100 miles completed. And I hadn't done a single 100 yet. I hadn't gone and run Chester. And I basically said, look, you have nothing to lose by giving me this spot. Nothing to lose. I've got 400s, which means I have 4 opportunities to do the prerequisite for this race. And I've written capital letters, I promise you, I will not fail. And then 3 weeks later, I got an email saying that you've been selected. And, I felt exactly how I felt at that freediving moment, where this wave of emotion come over me, my heart's beating, and like, I don't want to take that plunge. I don't want to go do this 20-meter free dive. And it was at that moment I knew I had to sign up.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do this.
I was going to come to that. So yeah, well, whilst we're on that subject, might as well talk about it, because I mean, I was going to, obviously that's your first event of next year, and yeah, as you've just explained, for anybody who doesn't know about it, it's literally running a 1 mile long tunnel, turning around and running back for 200 times, 200 miles in the dark with all that. Well, what you've said, it just sounded brutal. I mean, that's like, it messes with you on a whole nother level. Like, you read into the effects of like prolonged darkness on you. Like, you are going to be pushing yourself to such a limit where, like, it literally affects your what's called the circadian rhythm. So that's like the internal 24-hour biological clock. So all the behaviors that come with that. So your mood, it can affect digestion, temperature control, everything. Like, you in and out of that for 200 miles, you're going to experience some wild shit. And if you have hallucinations, I want to know what they are. Like, they are going to be mental. When I saw it, I was kind of jealous, but then equally, I was also like, I don't think I could do it. I'd read about it, and then when I saw your post, I was like, that sounds
But
that's a
you
whole nother
can, like,
level.
you can do it. And I'm a firm believer that anyone can do anything.
Yeah.
It's just about, what are you willing to forego to get there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And I mean, I suppose with what I'm doing with Ultra X next year, a lot of people would say that as well. I mean,
Yeah, that's insane.
yeah, I know for a fact that I will do it. If there's just certain factors that obviously I need to tick off in order to get to the start lines. But yeah, it's I'm saying that about the tunnels, but I'm going to be running. I mean, you run the 5 day Ultra of Wales. I'm going to be doing that in Tanzania, Wales, Nevada. Is it Jordan, Morocco? So I'm doing 5 of them, I
Jordan.
think it is.
Yeah.
And I'm a pasty Welsh ginger boy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't. You light the cigarette in front of me and I'll burn. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not one of those guys who deserves or has any place being in the Wadi Rum Desert or wherever it is that I'm going to be running and through deserts in Nevada. But why not? Like, that doesn't mean to say I can't do it. But so yeah, I suppose it's just mental. I honestly, I genuinely, of all the stuff you're doing this year with these 100 milers, I'm really excited to see how you get on. But I'm even more excited to see how you get on with this, because I know you'll do it, but I just want to know, and I'd love to get you back on here afterwards, because I want to be like, tell us about it, man. You need to tell me what you went through. And like, it's funny because you could come out at the back of it and be like, I loved it. I didn't want to come out. I started to feel like a bit of a bear in a cave. I wanted to hibernate in there. Or you could say the complete opposite and that you hated every second. But either way, I want to know your experience. So it'd be great to get you back on after that. Um, sorry, I was going to say something about, you mentioned it before we went into the tunnel. With these 100 milers, did you say you've got crew? Or have you have like paces, or what's the deal there?
So you're allowed crew. So my partner follow me around, meet me at checkpoints. You're allowed pacers from 50 miles onwards. So
Okay.
that's someone to just chill with, go do some running with. So I was pretty hard on the first 100 doing it by myself. So like, my coach was there and Megan was there, but in terms of pacers, it was, I want to really experience this.
Hmm.
No distractions. I want to get sucked into all its rarity.
Mm.
And now that I've done it and I've experienced it, and it pays credit to my coach, who doesn't get enough credit, but it was absolutely fine. Like, honestly, I finished 100 and people were finishing and they were walking like a penguin, as you do, and really, really struggling. And I was absolutely fine. I jumped in the shower, showered myself off. We went went and had a Nando's, and then drove home. And I was out walking my dog for an hour and a half the following day. And it was mind-boggling how the
Wow.
body can withstand that amount of impact over 28 hours. And don't get me wrong, I was smart. I didn't, as much as I wanted to go crazy, Luke was slow down, slow down, slow down, because you're not training for the first one. Essentially, I went into the first one underdone. I didn't go in at peak fitness. It was, we're now going to try and build on this. And I finished it. I felt great in probably the best possible best case scenario.
Yeah.
And it was best case scenario. No injuries, no niggles. I didn't have to worry about seeing an osteopath or a physiotherapist at the end. It was right. I can just focus on recovery now. And that goes down to the training that I've had. And I probably would say I'm a difficult person to coach, because I'm always like, more is more. Like, I want more. Like, I want to run more. I want to do more. I haven't done enough. And we sort of back and forth of less is more. So now going into the next hundreds, I've got some friends coming up to Scotland with me. They're going to come run with me from 50 miles onwards, 55 miles onwards, drop in, drop out. Lewis, who's got UTMB in August, he's going to come run some of Beacon's Way. Will from the Adventurous Athletes podcast is going to come support. So now it's, okay, I've run 100 miles. Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun. Let's bring some people on board and have that community that running brings. Surround yourself with friends and let them come have a bit of experience of what you're going through, and they're going to see a different side of you, a different version. They're going to see you suffer and struggle and be happy about it, because there won't be a moment in any of these races where I'm suffering and I'm going to hate it.
No.
Because I've actively seeked this out. I've chosen this. And I've chosen it for myself. So how can I hate it? How can I hate myself and hate this choice?
Yeah,
you'd be doing a disservice to the challenge.
Yeah. Do you think you've been a bit spoilt though, Nate, because it was the best case scenario coming out of Chester? Do you think like obviously you can only hope that all of them end like that? Who knows? But you've kind of been a bit spoiled, haven't you? Because you've got that expectation now where you're like, maybe I'll feel like that every time. But realistically,
I'm expecting to get to mile 60 of Scotland and be in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Like, honestly, that is why we go into these challenges. How bad is it going to get before we start second guessing ourselves?
Yeah.
And you're given a choice. Do you stop? Do you carry on? How bad is it got to get before you stop?
Yeah.
And that's what these challenges are about. But it's taking a step back and just looking up. Look at where I am. Look at what I get to do.
Yeah.
Look who I'm surrounded by. I chose this.
Yeah.
How can I stop? How can I stop now?
Mm.
And that is a huge contrast between the mountains and the beauty in the tunnel.
Oh.
They're two different challenges in their own right.
Yeah.
Yes, the tunnel's flat, but it's dark and it's shit. Scotland, Wales, I'm going to be surrounded by a beautiful family and friends. I'm going to be in the mountains, and all I've got to do is put one foot in front of all I've got to do is put one foot in front of the other
Yeah. And keep moving.
and
Yeah.
keep moving.
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it? It's I'm very excited for you. I'd like to say I come out and try and join you on some of the Beacons Way. I have to see. I got when is it? Oh, when's the Beacons Way? When August? You said
27th of July.
27th of July. Oh, right, that's bang smacking because I'm going to be going down with Nate at some point to try and help him on his Wales Coastal Path as well. But if I can't make it, mate, we'll all be watching. Don't you worry and supporting you. But yeah, it's incredible. It's
Yeah, I'll be in Cardigan Bay by then, hopefully.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully. I just want to ask you when I was reading through your Instagram and everything as well and various things. It says you've done 250-kilometer multi-stage ultras. So obviously, I know one of them was the Why We Run. The other one was the Wales one, wasn't it? The Ultra X. What was the other
Yeah,
one?
I've done 2 Why We runs.
Oh, of course you have. Yeah, yeah. Of course you have. Yeah.
Have you seen the
So-
first documentary, Reese?
No, I haven't.
I'll post a link as well because on the
That was
last
when I
day,
broke.
Grant was injured, so he had to walk the whole day, and he ended up coming in like last on the final day. But it was just such a moment, and I was in the same boat last year, and that was a driving force for me remembering Grant last year.
Well, so
Um,
the funny story about that is, so I met Lewis at Ultra X Wales, and we'd stayed in touch. We got on really well in Wales. There was some good competition between the pair of us, some good banter, and I was going away, and the dates that were set weren't the original dates. And I was going away for 4 weeks with my partner to Southeast Asia. And Lewis dropped me a message and he said, "Oh, right, the dates have changed. It's the day after you get back from Southeast Asia." Now, again, opportunity. I've got the opportunity to go run for Big Moose, go run with a bunch of like-minded people in November in what's potentially going to be the shittiest weather imaginable in Bath, and I'm going to enjoy it. Now, the mistake I made, which I still do sort of make the mistake of making, is desensitizing myself. So I'd run Ultra X Wales. I'd forgotten how bad Ultra X Wales was. I finished Ultra X Wales in pieces. Feet were battered, legs were battered. But I was like, it's fine, I can run 250k. So I messaged Lewis back and I said, yes, I'm in. I landed from Heathrow in the morning, drove home, swapped my suitcase for my running bag that I'd already pre-packed a month before. And I hadn't done any training in Southeast Asia. I'd done a little bit of running, but I was like, it's fine. I can go run 250k. It's not a race. And I went there, and Lewis was doing the evening briefing the day before, and I was in the tent, sound asleep at 7 o'clock at night, trying to get over my jet lag. It was horrendous. So I managed day 1 and day 2 absolutely fine. Day 3, my right ITB flared up. And if anyone's had it, it's this shooting pain on the side of your hip, and it doesn't go away. And if you're not careful, it goes into basically your butt. So I started running differently to compensate for my right ITB. Day 3 took me, I come in last day 3, and it was suffering in its most beautiful form. Like, it was horrendous. And I started getting ITB pains on my left leg. So day 4 come around, and I knew I was going to be hobbling most of day 4. Now, Jenny, the osteopath, and Soph, I'd done 1 loop, and I was hobbling, and now my shin started to hurt because you're changing your running gait to compensate, and my ITBs are throbbing, So I'm going to run differently, but now it's causing my shins to hurt. And I was laying down and they was massaging my ITBs and they said, like, stop. And I turned around and said, what's the worst that can happen? Can it snap? And they said, no. I said, that's the only answer I need then. So got back up. I went back out there. Day 4 took me 14 hours of just hobbling around this shitty little loop. And the funny thing is I got to the canal in the pitch black. I've been out for hours. I had my headphones in and it was starting to piss down and rain. And I felt this overwhelming sense of peace. And I took my earphones out and I was just hobbling along the canal, feeling the rain along my face. And I stood there for a moment. I just closed my eyes and I was like, this is beautiful. And it was at that moment, I was like, I am fucking indestructible. Yeah, as corny as it sounds, as crazy as it sounds, I was like, I will not break under these circumstances. Like, you will not break me. And another hour passed and Lewis messaged me, probably like just checking in to see if I was okay because I'd been out for hours. And I messaged him back and I just put, I love this shit. I love it. And I went back, and if you've seen the video, Nathan, you've seen it, like, played a song and like they was all waiting. And like I was hobbling in, sobbing a little bit because you was just surrounded by this unconditional love. No one gave a shit. Everyone just wanted to see you succeed. And I went back to the hotel that night in absolute bits. I got up Friday. I'd already completed it in my head. And I didn't care how long it was going to take. And I went back out there and I finished the last 2 laps. I ended up on crutches afterwards because my shins were absolutely shot to pieces. My ITBs were horrendous. And it put me out of running for 5 months. I did not have a
stress fractures or anything, or was
stress
it
fracture in my right leg, and my ITBs, and I did not run pain-free for 5 months.
Wow.
And I was in bits. Like, in hindsight, I'd do it all again because it taught me so much about myself and so much about what we are capable of as people. If we're surrounded by the right people, and this goes back to work, like you're surrounded by this environment, you're surrounded in this environment that is where these people are bringing you down. But then while you run, you're surrounded by these people that just want to lift you up.
Yeah.
And they want to see you succeed. And yeah, okay, granted, I was told to stop, but I still had that choice. The choice was still my own. And I was able to make it. And from that, it opened up a world of opportunity. I managed to go do a double Ironman. 4 weeks later from finishing a double Ironman, I went and ran the second Wari run. And I finished the second Wari run and it was a piece of cake. Because of that conditioning, because of the conditioning I'd had all year from the bike, the swimming, the running, and it just paid dividends on the second Wari run. And I went away again. Me and my partner went to Bali for 5 weeks and went and hiked some amazing mountains. And sort of, this is where I learned rest is important, because it's easy to get carried away and look at the next challenge. But I made this active choice. I went to Bali and it was like, right, I'm capitalizing on why we run, and I'm going to go run 10 miles every other day. And my coach messaged me and he said, what the fuck are you doing? chill out. Like, you've just gone and done this. Chill out. So I took my watch off. It was eye-opening. Like, we get lost in data, we get lost in Whoop and Garmin and step counting, and I'd forgotten what it was to live without it. And took the watch off, took everything off, didn't care. Like, my body had just allowed me to go run 250k scot-free. Well, what are you worrying about? Take the time off and like stay active. I was still like, I went to Komodo Island and I went scuba diving, and me and my partner went and hiked Mount Rinjani, which was brutal. Like, it was brutal, and we had the best time ever. And that was because I was able to just switch off from it all. And what followed from that was being able to come back and still love running.
Mad. You mentioned a few times a double Ironman, mate. Obviously, you've never, when I read into it, you've never even done a half Ironman.
No.
So what made you go from not even doing a half Ironman, not really being that comfortable swimming, having to learn to swim in a pool and all that, to
Couldn't
then
swim.
What?
You couldn't swim.
You couldn't swim,
I couldn't.
to go into
couldn't
doing
swim.
that. And also, for the people who don't know, this was also in Snowdon, so the highest mountain in England and Wales.
Yeah.
So it took you off
Yeah.
38 hours. So talk me through a bit. How far was the swim and everything? And like,
So the swim
what
was 8k. The
8K?
bike was 372, and the run was 85k with Mount Snowdon to begin with. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I had a conversation with, so this was when I was looking for a coach. And Luke is Lewis's old coach. He trained Lewis for his 5.250s. I met him at the first YB run, and we had a conversation. He was skeptical, and for me, I don't like being told I can't do something. It gripes me, because I've been told I can't do something for so long. Like, I was told I couldn't go run a sub-3. Then I was told you couldn't go do it twice a week apart. And it was like, no, you fucking can. Like, you can do this stuff. And we had a conversation, and I said, I want to do the double. And he was umming and ahhing. And I was like, this isn't up for discussion. Like, I want to do the double, and it's your job to get me there. And after a few conversations, I was still injured at this point as well. I hadn't done any running. I had a conversation about swimming, and I'd done like 3 cycling events the year before. The worst one was Dragon's Ride in Wales, in the Brecon Beacons. It was horrendous. Took me 12 and a half hours. It was disgusting. But I had no context. I had no context of what it felt like cycling for 200 for 20 plus hours. I hadn't swum, but all I knew was I can run. Like, I can run. And for me, that was all that mattered. So we come to a plan, and it was, okay, we're going to get you in the pool twice a week. We're going to get you on the bike. And I don't know if you remember, but last summer was the worst summer ever. It pissed down. And I thought, oh, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to get incredible cycling time, saddle time in the summer. I changed so many punctures. It was unreal. There's a video on my phone of me screaming just through sheer frustration, because I don't like treadmill running. I do not like sitting on a turbo. I don't like sitting on a watt bike. I will always pick the outdoors regardless of the weather. So when you wake up and it's, I've got to go do a 4-hour bike ride in the pissing rain. It's like, you've got to go do 4 hours of bike ride in the pissing rain, and just get on with it. Just go do it. And open water season come, put a wetsuit on, and I loved it. Being able to just switch off. Like, I'm not a fast swimmer. My swimming never got any quicker over the training period. I was always sitting at around 2 minutes, 2 minutes 10 for 100 meters, but I could maintain that for ages. And I felt happy doing so. And the swim is what's always put me off applying for an Ironman because because I couldn't do it and I was petrified of doing it. I was petrified of drowning. And again, that's why I had to sign up. It was like, this is going to force you to get better. This is going to force you to do something you don't want to do. And as the months progressed, I met up with Lewis. Lewis is a phenomenal swimmer. We done some open water swims together. I done so much cycling. This is another thing with ultra running, is it's very lonely. So in my 7 months of training, I done 2 rides with someone and 2 open water swims with Lewis and maybe a few long runs. The 7 months I was by myself. And I'm a big believer in visualization. So when you're suffering and you're struggling, just visualize that finish line and what that finish line is going to feel like. That's what you're here for. This is why you're training. Because without this, you're not going to get there. Or you're going to get there, but you are not going to enjoy it. You're going to get halfway through that race and doubts are going to start flooding in. And that's not to say that it didn't happen. Even with all the preparation I had leading up to the double, again, I was like, I haven't done enough. I haven't done enough swimming. I haven't done enough cycling. I haven't done enough running. And a little tip we done on Training Peaks was we compiled all the distances. And I'd cycled like 6,000 kilometers over the course of the year leading into the double. I'd swum hundreds of kilometers. I'd run probably not as much as I wanted to, but I'd run loads. I'd been to South Korea. I went and ran along their national park. I'd done Tenny Fan. And we feel like we lose this fitness. We feel like we've lost it a few weeks later, but we haven't. It's there. It's in the legs. The swimming's there, and it's getting the effects of weeks and weeks and weeks of training. And I enjoyed the swim so much. It was gorgeous. Funny enough, we'd had a heat wave that weekend. So it was super warm. The temperature was 19 degrees in the lake. It was still, and it was 3 hours of swimming. It was just okay. I've just got to swim for 3 hours. And in my idea, I'd had 3 hours. What I wasn't prepared for was the bike. The bike was just a different beast altogether. It was this loop, 40K loop. And I don't know if you'd know Snowdon, but you've got Penny Pass. And it's 6 kilometers long. I can't remember the exact details. 6.4 kilometer climb. And you have to do it 8 times. And you get real fucking comfy on that climb. And I remember getting into the night section. Must have been about 1 a.m. And by this time, only 20 odd people had signed up to the double. All the Ironmen had finished. All the halves had finished, and you've only got the doubles out and the triples. And I just remember seeing these dots, these headlights in the distance in Penny Pass, because it does like a U shape on itself and it goes back on itself and you can see the distance. And I don't know if you know Sean Conway.
Yeah.
He was doing the double as well.
Oh, that's cool.
And I managed to have an amazing conversation with him. And it's dangerous because when you have conversations with people like this and you feed off of it, your brain starts firing and it's like, oh my God, like I want to do all these crazy things. And I remember on the 6th lap, feeling like I didn't belong there. I was tired, I was suffering, and it was you start having these doubts, like, I don't belong here. Like, who am I kidding? Like, I don't deserve to be riding next to Sean Conway, world record holder. And it was very demoralizing. But again, you just crack on.
What kept you going? What kept your spirits going?
I've got to do it. It's just, I have to do this. I have to do it. And I have this mental block. Earlier that year, I'll get back to the double, but earlier that year, me and my partner had signed up to a 100-mile bike ride. And my thread on my pedals had gone. So the pedal had worked itself loose. I technically couldn't finish the race. My bike was busted. You couldn't put the pedal back on. I made my partner get off her bike. I swapped the pedals over, and I was like, I'm going to finish the race. You've got to go back to the start line with the man in the truck. Yeah, I just had that block. Like, it made me feel physically sick, knowing that I wasn't going to be able to finish this race. And my partner, as lovely as she was suffering anyway and didn't want to do it. So it was perfect. I said she manifested it. She wanted the race to end because she was suffering. My bike broke, so we swapped them. And like, I gunned it to the finish line. The same thing with a double. It was, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I have to prove it to myself that I can do this. And I broke it down. I broke everything down into half Ironman. So if you do 2 loops at the lake, it's okay, I've done a half Ironman. You do another 2, okay, I've done a full, I've got a full left. I do 2 more, I've only got a half left. The same with the bike. 8 loops, break it down into 2s. I got off the bike after 21 hours, pretty beat up. Like, I got on it at 10:30 Saturday morning, and I got off it at 7:30 Sunday morning. I wanted to throw the bike in the river, and I hadn't actually been out on my bike since last weekend when I went out on it with Lewis. So that's like 7 months of no cycling, because I had this mental block of just, fuck this bike. Like, I've had enough of it. As gorgeous as the bike is, as much as I loved it, I did not want to get back on it. But once I got off the bike, you had to go see the medic, and you had to, Callum, who was at Why We Run. So this is another thing with running and the community and its beauty, is I hadn't met Callum before the double, and I put a post out because I found out that it was compulsory to have someone hike Mount Snowdon with you for safety reasons. So I put a post out on Instagram and I said, look, I need someone to come hike with me. I couldn't take Megan because she had been driving around in the car all night, following me around, which was another thing. You had to have someone follow you in the night section because there was no support crew, or everyone had gone home, or the organisers had gone home. So someone had to follow you in a car at checkpoints and just make sure you was okay. So I put an Instagram post out, and Callum reached out and was like, I'd love nothing more than to come hike Snowdon with you. So he joined me in the morning. I had Shane from the first Why We Run, Louise, who I hadn't even met before, messaged, and her family member was also doing the double. So again, it just brought all these people together that had never met each other, but they was willing to support one another. They was willing to support a stranger do this crazy challenge.
Amazing.
And
small world, isn't it, as well?
Small world, and it was amazing. And I hiked up Snowdon, and I was sort of shuffling, and everyone joined me for the loop. So it's like a 5-mile loop that you'd have to repeat 8 times. And I was 3 loops out, and darkness had come. And it reminded me of Why We Run along the canal. And I had this wave of energy come over me. And I said to Megan, look, I don't want anyone with me now. Like, I want to go and soak this up for myself and appreciate and love myself and what my body's allowed me to do. And them doubts of I don't belong here on the bike completely flipped on the run, because it was like, I know how to run. I know what tired, broken legs feel like running. I'm tired, but my legs ain't broken. Like, let's finish this. And my lap times got quicker for the last 3. It was like 1 hour and 9, 1 hour and 4, and 1 hour and 1 minute was my fastest lap. And I finished, and like, you've seen the video, like, I fucking just let out this scream, like this euphoric scream of like, wow, man. Like, I've been going for 38 hours and I feel amazing. It was short-lived, because when I finished, I went and sat down on the chair, and Megan come like 5 minutes later, waking me up. She's like, babe, we gotta go. So I finished, and all the adrenaline had finished. And then the tiredness caught up on me. But I woke up the following day and felt fine. Like, bit achy, upper back hurt a little bit, but I was walking fine. And I rung Luke up and I said, mate, we should have gone for the triple. There's that echo of disappointment of, could I have pushed for the triple? And I was gutted, because I'd finished and I'd slept, and I'd borrowed my auntie and uncle's camper van, their motorhome, and we drove. I drove out of the car park, and I see a guy who was still going, who was doing the triple. And I just felt this world of pride in him, of just like, man, you are something special. Like, I've been to bed, I've been asleep, I've eaten, I feel fine, and you're still grafting.
Was Sean doing the triple?
No, Sean was doing the double as well.
Did you beat him?
He did 105 full Ironmans in 105 days, didn't he?
Yeah. He was still recovering at the double. As much joy as I'd like to say that I beat him, it was never a competition. And this is the beautiful thing with ultras. Depending on how you enter them, whether it's for performance or for yourself, it's with the marathons and the halves. When I was sort of competing for a time, you always ask that question: oh, what'd you do it in?
Yeah.
No one gives a fuck when you run a 50k ultra. They're like, oh my god, you went and ran a 50k ultra, that's amazing, well done. No one cares. The double, it alleviated that pressure of, and there were so many Ironmen there that were doing the event, and at the kit check, everyone's talking about how fast they've done an Ironman. They're all talking about their fastest swim, bike, run, like what watts are they pulling from the bike. I couldn't give a fuck. Like, I'm at that phase of my life where it was all about the length and the endurance of what can I do for myself. That's not to say that in the future I'm intrigued to go back into performance and speed work, but for now I enjoy the mental struggle that ultra brings.
Well, I'm curious, mate. Tell us some bucket list or some crazy challenges you've got lined up, because I know for a fact you've got some bottled away there, and me and Nathan and anybody listening, you're a bit of a badass, so I want to know what numbers you've got lined up.
So there's a few I would like to do next year. There's the tunnel.
Yeah.
There's Tour de France, which is a 200-mile ultra in Italy.
Yeah.
I think I'd be pushing it if I'd done any more than 200s in a calendar year, depending on how the body feels.
I actually met
especially
someone today doing that. Tour de
the Tour de
Jans.
Jans. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely brutal but spectacular, and that's why I really want to do it, because you're going from the tunnel, which is completely derelict and isolate, to Tour de Jans, which is just spectacular. So it's just two different contrasts. I'd really like to do the jog or joggle with the three peaks.
Which is what is that what Imogen's just done?
Yeah, so Imogen's
Yeah.
done the three peaks, but separately. I would like to combine them.
Oh, okay.
Where
Interesting.
that is something that has been an idea that I've been flirting with for a while. But again, I only started running in 2022.
Yeah.
Still very young in terms of the ultra running world. I'm still very naive and overestimate my capabilities, if you
Yeah.
will. That self-belief is so powerful that I almost have to check myself. and I think social media can be guilty of it as well. It feeds it, because we're led to believe that people are doing it every weekend and people are running 50Ks every day, and it distorts reality.
It does.
And it's sort of checking that. Like, we see people on holiday all the time, but you don't see the day-to-day grind. You don't see the day-to-day 9 to 5, because no one really shares it. Everyone just shares these spectacular achievements. And I think Nathan as well, going into Wales, you really need to share the shit, because it's easy to look at someone running a marathon and it makes it so accessible. Oh yeah, I could go run a marathon, but we never see the 5 a.m. wake ups, the 8 p.m. runs that they've dedicated their time to, and the sacrifices they've made to get to that marathon. And
the process, like it's all about, you see, like, the people letting out, like you said, euphoric screams as they cross the finish line. They don't see the 38 hours of suffering that they went through prior to that. And that's true, that, isn't it? Because when we had was it Mark on, Mark Lewis, is that his name again? I forgot. Is that his name?
I think Leon spoke about it as well, didn't he? He was more proud of the process to get him to the start line of joggle and him actually doing joggle.
Yeah, and Mark said to make sure that if you're going to film and document the Wales Coastal Path or whatever it is you do, don't turn the camera off when you're at your lowest, because that's just shit that people need to see, because it ain't all unicorns and butterflies. It is hard. You are putting yourself in such a vulnerable position where you are physically crying in pain, both and mentally, and you need people to be like, yeah, it's great to do. Don't get me wrong; it's an incredible opportunity. But I am fully aware I'm going to be hurting, and I want you to see that, because, in fact, you mentioned, Nate, that your son's going to be joining you for a lot of it because you want him to see you suffer, because that's life.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and yesterday, he wouldn't stop talking about it. He's so hyped for it. His teacher now listens to the podcast.
Oh, that's amazing. See, that's great. Oh, we gotta stop swearing then. Sorry.
You'll know where my boy gets his swearing from then.
Oops, daisy.
Oh shit.
But it's all sports.
Exactly.
As well. I think we're very desensitized to it, and I get there. And the crazy thing is I went and ran a half marathon at Reading last weekend, and it was a huge reality check of hundreds of people suffering on a half marathon, and it was a brutally hot day. There was people passed out on patches of grass where they'd overheat, hadn't drunk a lot, paramedics about, and this is normal. Like, this is actually normal. What we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish isn't.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I think we often forget about like the 5 and 10Ks and how hard it was as we were beginning our running journeys, don't we?
Yeah. I did I entered the Cardiff half marathon last year, and it was like you said, it's a half marathon, and I would never take it away from half marathon distance because it's still, you're out there, you're doing it. Doesn't matter if it's 5K or 500K, whatever. I got respect for you. And like I said, a friend of mine was like, "Well, I can give you a free entry because it's through his work," and I was like, "Oh yeah, go on in, why not? I'll do it." And it broke me a little bit just because it was in October, but it was a really humid day. I went in there, not cocky, but I was like, "I can do this. I've run much further distances on a regular basis. That's like a training run for me." Mm-mm. That was a slap across the face. And you need those moments to just be like, don't get me wrong, I wasn't hurting afterwards or anything. I was crossed the line, enjoyed it. But I mean, it was the humidity and everything. And I was like, shit, that was a reality check. Like, reining in a bit. Like, it's still running 13 miles in a hot temperature and surrounded by people who are doing wonderful things. And I think we need that in life, don't we? So, it's
It's
easy.
easy to lose sight of, and it's easy to forget where we've come from.
Yeah, exactly.
We never look back. We're always looking forward. Like,
Yeah.
what's next? What's next? And almost even pish poshing it. Like, what do I want to go run a half marathon for? And losing sight of that. And I actually was one of the best runs. It was my partner's longest run because she is coming back from injury. So we got to enjoy that together. There was no time constraints. It was just remembering the beauty of running and running with people, running with loved ones. And
Exactly.
it's hard because, Nathan, you'll know, and you'll know that the training can be very lonely and isolate.
Oh God, yeah.
And we get in our own heads, and we spend so much time by ourselves that I think why we run as well is so important to sort of check back into that, like the community and the people. And Zigzag is a company sort of around Suffolk, and they do 5K loops. And they was huge into me pushing myself because there was never any sort of limit on distance. Like, you could sign up to a half marathon, but if you didn't feel good on the day, you could drop it down to 10K, 5K. If you felt good, you could up it to a marathon. And so many people would feel good and just go, "Oh yeah, I'm going to push it today. I'm going to go that little bit further." And now the community for Zigzag is huge because it's so family orientated. It's so community led that people are just pushing it that little bit further. And like, whether it's 5K or even a kilometer, it's huge. And we should really relish that and take pride in it.
I have to turn my video off a sec, guys, because my battery's on 1%. I've just realised. What's going on? What's going on? My battery's about
Amateur.
to die.
Yeah.
Amateur, yeah, definitely. But yeah, mate, I think unless you got anything else you want to ask, Nate, I think
So when is why we run this year, Grant?
Am I going?
No, when is it?
Oh, it's the 23rd of September.
Is there any places left if people are interested?
Yes, there are. Yes, there's some spaces left. Not many though. Not many. They have been filling up, and I encourage.
It's life changing.
Yeah, it's life changing, and you have nothing to lose by signing up, and everything to gain.
Yeah, there's no pressure on you doing it. It's your own personal challenge.
Yeah, and you're going to be surrounded by a world of people that are going to encourage, that they're going to come run laps with you if you're struggling. You can lean on each other. For me, it was life-changing. I love the community. I love Lewis. I love Dan, Soph, Jen, everyone we met at the second one. Everyone keeps in touch, and everyone's just wanting everyone to do better. And it's just such a beautiful environment.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd love to. If I can, I will. But it looks incredible, and I'm again very jealous I've not made previous ones. And in fact, I'm going to go back and watch the first one because I've not watched that one. But and see you hobble over that line, Grant.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, and like through encouragement as well. It's encouraged me to become a coach and help
Yeah.
people realize that with a little bit of self-belief, you can go a long way.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
definitely.
love it.
Encourage people to realize their full potential, isn't it? Because, like you
Mm.
said, with that zigzag thing, they enter the race thinking they're only going to do half, and then they realize, actually, I can keep going here. It gives them that opportunity to that mindset. So yeah,
And it's
it's
getting
amazing.
comfortable, and it's encouraging you to book that holiday, go on that adventure, go and experience life in all its glory.
Yeah, hell yeah, absolutely.
Not get caught up in the day-to-day monotony of work, because there's a whole world out there that needs experiencing, and so many people. And for me, some of the best experiences were just turning up at a hostel as a complete stranger and just meeting people, and that gave me the confidence to go to Ultra X Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
And just don't be shy, because you never know what it's going to lead to. Take that leap of faith.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Be curious.
Be curious, yeah, and be curious to fail, because there is no failing if you get up the next day and try again. All there is experience gained.
Yeah, hell yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably a good point to leave it at that, mate. Be curious and yeah,
Yeah,
and be open to failure as well, because you're not failing if you try. You're failing if you don't get to that point where you even press enter and enter the race. But you're not failing if you give it a go. So, yeah, thank you, man.
yeah,
I mean, genuinely, this is it's the first time I've had a proper chat with you because, like I said, it was all very busy and stuff at the Big Moose event, and I know you've spoken to Nate a lot more, but just I want to say from me personally as well, like, thank you so much for coming on here and chatting. You're a very, very inspirational guy, mate. You've been doing this, for a couple of years, and what you've achieved already is monumental. Like, there's people in life that have never achieved half of what you have in a short time. And it's talking about the whole journey you've been through and your relationship with pain and your relationship with discomfort and where you've come from to where you are. It's an absolute pleasure to see that you're thriving, mate, and you've found your calling, so to speak, for want of a better word. And I am genuinely excited, as I'm sure Nathan is, and everyone who's listening, to see what you've got in store for us for the rest of your life. Because, yeah, man, you're bloody, yeah, you're smashing it. And thank you so much for taking the time and coming on here to talk to us, stupid Welsh lads. And let's hope we can get some miles in together in the future, mate. Definitely.
thank you. It'd be a pleasure, and thank you for having me. I was bricking it at the beginning, but
You did awesome. You're so bloody inspiring. Your whole attitude towards just life is it's amazing.
It is. It's
thank
your
you,
whole. Yeah,
thank you.
you do. You've got that attitude, mate. You've got that. You've got the right attitude to do anything, and you've already proven that in a matter of 2 years or whatever it is. So yeah, let's keep moving forward. And I cannot wait to see what you do following these three remaining 100s and the tunnel next year. And dead excited, mate. Dead excited. So thank you again, mate. Honestly, from both of us. And yeah, let's catch up again soon. And we'll keep our eyes peeled for the remaining challenges for the rest of this year and post debate and everything. And yeah, thanks again,
Yeah,
man.
thank you. And Nathan, I will be down to come share some trails with you. That is a promise.
Awesome. Can't wait.
It's going to be
Let's do it.
exciting. Thank you both.
Yeah.
Thank you, honestly, for having me on.
It's been a
It's been a
pleasure,
pleasure.
Grant.
Thank you, Grant. Been a
Enjoy.
pleasure, mate. Thanks ever so much, mate.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
Bye.
Take care, buddy.
Bye. Bye.
Fucking hell, what a man.
I know his attitude was amazing, isn't it?
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
He's just got so much love and admiration for everyone who just puts themselves through shit. Amazing.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Nothing but respect for him, man. Fair play. I can't
I
wait to
never
go out
see
running
him
with
not smiling.
No, I can't wait to go out running with him because he'll be one of those guys. You'll be 10 miles into a run, and by the end of it, you'll want to run another fucking 100. Mental. What a man. Fair play to him in such a short time. He's obviously got that. It's just built in him, innit? He's got that drive.
Yeah.
Like, fair play.
Yeah.
Wicked. Thank you so much, guys. Before we end, Nathan, I just really want to say thank you so much for tuning in and supporting the Just Run podcast. Obviously, we've had some incredible guests, super inspiring people. You know, Grant is no exception if you've listened to this episode. We're just having so much fun talking to these really great people, and we've got so many more guests lined up now from all over the world, including listeners all over the world. So please, you make this possible by liking, subscribing, and listening. So keep doing it. And yeah, we'll keep providing the content. So thanks ever so much for listening, guys. And yeah, cheers.
Bye.
Bye.